BBC News article saying that two people had died that were standing literally right next to me, and I'll never forget. I'll never forget the look of terror on people's faces. That's the thing that sticks with me the most. I remember there was a girl at one point who was holding my hand. I didn't know this girl whatsoever, but she held my hand. I held her hand as long as I could until eventually I lost her in the crowd. But yeah, that was pretty much the experience in a nutshell.
Thank you,
It was a war
Deshaun.
zone.
And why is it that Deshaun and others had to try to come up with safety plans for an escape route? Where were the crowd control personnel there? Where were the medical personnel there to help them? I mean, it is malfeasance on every level. And that's why we have to get the answers. We cannot have where people go to a concert and they die. That is unacceptable in 2021. It is so preventable. This was so preventable. People sometimes try to say, well, you weren't physically injured like Miss Daughtry or Mr. Nunn, who's on crutches. What's the problem? They have severe mental issues. Post traumatic stress disorder is very real. And we're hearing it over and over again. These people are not able to just turn the page and go back to normal. And we as a society should take very seriously their mental health after this tragedy. And we're saying to Live Nation and everybody, don't try to sweep this under the rug as if it's not real. It is real. It's very real. Thank you, Dijon.
It's ISAAC. 31. Yes. I ended up walking home from NRG after that. A Museum District Montrose area. Thank you.
Now we're going to have Miss Daughtry come to you. She's having some problems ambulating, so we're going to assist her. Okay? Just take your time.
I've never experienced anything of a. I just, it's like, I just literally thought I was gonna die. I was like, I never thought that going to entertainment would turn out to be such a disaster. It was a nightmare that I never forget. I can't sleep at night. Every time I close my eyes, I see it. It's just, I'm lost for words for it. Never seen so many people on the ground fighting for their life. Never know that you will buy a ticket and it will be your death ticket. It's just, it's devastating. It's like a nightmare. I don't even like talking about it.
And that's her mental injury. Can you tell a little bit about your physical injury, Miss Daughtry, and
When
what all?
I fell to the ground. My back, I was walked on. If it wasn't for my brother, I probably wouldn't even be here today. But we managed to get out the crowd. But I was walked on my back, my leg. I already had my ankle messed up, and it got injured. I It was like I couldn't breathe. I was.
That's enough. Okay. Okay. We can go ahead and jump again. Um, and and I will spell it loud so everybody can hear. Gertrude, Gertrude, Daughtry, Daughterey. Uh, 59 years old. And she's a grandmother. Uh, and this just shows that this was truly promoted as a family oriented festival. And you have people of all ages there to enjoy the festival, never knowing that, as Miss Daughtry said, it would turn into a disaster that has changed their lives forever. You know, it's one thing for us to talk about it, it's another thing for you to witness it with your own eyes. You saw the pain on Unica's face. You saw the pain on Raina's face. You saw the pain on Deshawn's face, and certainly you saw the very expressions on Gertrude's face, and it's real. And so we have filed this lawsuit, and we expect that because we have dozens of other people calling every day, and we're trying to collect the information, the whole team of lawyers and staff, that we will be filing others, because one thing is for certain: we will not let them get away with this. There will be accountability, and we're going to make them have changes in the industry. Whether it's George Floyd or the children in Flint, Michigan, all these cases, not just about justice for those who are injured in this tragedy, it's about trying to make changes where all of our children and our neighbors will be safe. They will get to come home to their mothers and fathers, and they will get to come home to their brothers and sisters and their friends. And unfortunately, not everybody who went to Astroworld Festival got to come home to their families and friends. And that's why we're here. We'll take some of your questions. We're representing over 200 plaintiffs. And we filed over 93 lawsuits to date.
As of today, we have filed 93 lawsuits. We filed one lawsuit this morning on behalf of 90 plaintiffs.
Yeah.
Crump. Attorney Crump, can you please provide us an update of the status of the state of Ezra Blunt, and has Travis talked to his family or any of the...
A lot of stuff is private, and they want it to remain private. His health condition, the only thing his mother and father continue to ask is for prayers. Please continue to pray for that 9-year-old baby. That's the only thing. They don't want to get into anything else, but ask everybody to pray for them. Yes. Yes.
And I have a question.
Yeah.
You said that you're going to look for every responsible party.
Absolutely, everybody. Everybody. His name is on the lawsuit, but Live Nation, we don't ever want it to get lost. That Live Nation is the largest concert promoter in the world. They do these every day. If Travis Scott is accountable, he absolutely should be held accountable. But don't forget that Live Nation does this every day, all day, every part of the world. So if we want the change to make sure people are going to be safe, we got to be talking to the person who is the parent corporation, the industry leader. That's the only way you get change. That's the only way we save lives. We don't just point at the little people, we point at all of them, and we don't let the big people get away.
Mr. Crump.
Yes.
This morning, a spokesperson for Travis Scott said,
We're investigating everything. We're not taking anybody's word for anything. That's why we had all our experts out there on the scene, meticulously documenting. We're getting all of the audio from all the 911 transactions. We won't leave not one I undotted or one T crossed because they matter. They deserve that. Israel deserves that. People who lost their lives deserve every question to be answered. So we're not going to let anybody off the hook. Yes, ma'am. Alex, you take this one.
We have seen throughout the investigation, we have seen evidence from the logs. It does show that there was knowledge on behalf of the promoters, on behalf of the security and for-profit medical corporation that was hired to be there to protect people. This was a mass casualty event and should have been shut down long before it actually was finally shut down by the HPD, the Harris County Police Department. The logs only detail a tragic timeline of understanding and knowledge from these corporations that people were dying and that steps should have been taken to shut the concert down, and nobody did anything.
Yes, sir.
Question for Deshaun and some of the survivors.
Deshaun, yeah, want to come up? If y'all can come up, we're with you. And if you don't want to answer a question, just say, step a little closer, if you will. Nika, will you step a little closer?
While you're going through the health.
I don't know if the performers were aware. I feel like once I got out, I saw Travis stop the concert once or twice to make sure people who had passed out were helped out. But other than that, I was honestly, I couldn't pay attention to really much at the time. I was just trying to process what had just happened.
Any other questions?
You mentioned, and if you can't just there were sheriffs on horses. You said sheriffs or was that police? You know, and can you describe just a little bit more of you tried to get help from them? What was your attitude?
I wouldn't.
Reno, so sorry.
I'm sorry. I wouldn't know the
And
difference.
that was Reno.
Oh, okay. That was
Rena, can you describe
Horses.
sheriffs on horses?
She can't hear your question. Ask your question again.
You described that there were sheriffs there on horses. Was that the sheriffs, or do you know if
To
it
be
was
honest, I just heard everyone in the crowd yelling the sheriffs, and then I remember having to get on my tippy toes and seeing them, so I wasn't really sure like what I saw, but I know that
Did they end up helping anybody, or were
no.
they trying
To
to
be
stop people
honest,
who
what
were
they
left?
were doing, like what they would do is when people were still coming in, because the thing is they didn't block off the VIP entrance. What they were doing is we're just scaring people with the horses, and I remember just seeing the horses being very distressed too, and being very like incorrupted. They didn't want to work with the people because they were distressed too. And I remember them just walking around and just recording. Honestly, I didn't see them try to help anybody. The people that did stop, the people that broke in were the other security, the people that were hired. But I didn't see any of them do it. And then throughout the event, they weren't there. I literally would just see the same two police officers. I didn't see any more throughout the event.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe there's anything more that the Houston Police Department could have done at the site of the concert as it was going on, or were their hands tied just like the fire department?
Well, we're investigating everybody and everyone. We think that there was failure of responsibility on every level, and we want all those questions answered. One of the things, you get emotional because these were such preventable losses, and as you get to know the families, it just hits you. I have a 9-year-old daughter, and I just keep thinking about how Israel parents, you know, what could be going through their mind when you are going to a family festival that has been promoted like that. They have so many children who are fans because of Fortnite, because of McDonald's, kids meals that, had Travis Scott. And so you knew this was going to be family oriented because you promoted it to the world. And so it really is about, attorney here, when I get involved in a case, it's really not just about trying to get justice for this family or that person. It's about trying to make change. Thurgood Marshall would always say, no, no, we're not just fighting for this individual, we're fighting to have a greater impact on the larger society. And they have concerts and music festivals all over the world. And if it can happen here in Houston, it can happen in your city too. So what I'm trying to do, what we're committed to doing, is trying to have a change in the industry for the better.
Can we say whose name's in the lawsuit?
We got the lawsuit available. If you go to press@bencrump.com,
So
we will provide.
and the
Oh,
promoter.
everybody, absolutely. You can go look back at all our lawsuits. We have 20 defendants
And
named,
Deshaun
and
said-
that number is growing.
And Deshaun said he was standing next to some people who had passed away. Deshaun, do you know who that was?
I believe it was the guy's name who starts with a D. It was the one who was trying to save his fiance, and that's the reason why I remember them.
Babe.
Yeah, yeah. And then I think it was James or Jake. Who was the other one?
Jacob.
Yeah,
Jacob, maybe?
I think so.
Is that a defense that you're talking
No, this was before like the shoving and everything started. They were, I think, to the right of me, and then I remember the fiance trying to get out and like trying to help her like get between me.
Uh,
Deshaun's range is that he was ages, please.
Sorry, what was that?
Yeah,
Oh, 31.
and Rain, how many? 25. And Unica. And Unica's 34, mother of twins. Attorney Hilliard and I'll try to take one or two more questions. And yes. Certainly, I'll go first and then Attorney Hilliard and then if any other witnesses. You know, when you think about crowd control, they know how many tickets they sold. You know how big the arena is. You can predict and strategize what to do. You have to have, I'm sure the demographics, you have to have proportionality. For every 100 people or every 200 people, we need to have a medical provider. We need to have a security personnel. We need to have a escape route. We need to have a plan. We want them to be more vigilant in preventing, not being reactive, but be proactive. And that's what we think was lacking here. They were not proactive in dealing with all of the foreseeable things. It is not Dijon Isaac's job to come up with an escape route. He was a customer. He had paid money to purchase the ticket. He wanted to just come and enjoy the show. He didn't know that he was going to have to be emergency life care provider at the show. He didn't know he was going to have to be a law enforcement officer trying to clear the path. He didn't know he was going to have to be a mental health counselor trying to hold on to the young lady's hand who he didn't know to try to encourage her just to stay together. Miss Daughtry on the ground, as she told us in our intake, she thought she was going to die on the ground. They should have had people in place to be able to deal with crowd control and deal with safety. And so whether it's some policy or whether it's some regulations that have to be passed, you can never have people go to a concert and die. I mean, unjustifiable deaths. Alex,
It's not rocket science for Live Nation. Like we said, they're the biggest billion-dollar promoter, organizer, and advertiser of these festivals around the world, and they acknowledged that there was a danger and a risk that people were going to get hurt in the plans for this festival. And when that happens, the first step is you put an age limit on who can attend. You do not let 9-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 5-year-olds into a concert that you have acknowledged as an organizer and promoter that people are likely to get hurt. We need extra security and site personnel on site, and then allow every single age to come in the doors. To what? To make money. That's why they did this.
Do you any? Okay. All right. Last question.
Can you kind of go through that? Like, how much evidence are you going to have to wade through? How long do you think
We anticipate the evidence is going to be, it's going to be months as the criminal investigation happens. We anticipate that over the next months, we will continue to investigate every single level of failures, from the very top at Live Nation to the security team. We're not going to leave one stone unturned. As you know, there's a criminal investigation happening, which we intend to comply with. But as this lawsuit goes on, we will be taking the depositions of the highest ranking executive officers that had the power to shut this concert down and didn't. And they're going to have to testify under oath as to what their reasoning was, what their unimaginable reasoning was for not shutting it down when they knew people were already dying. It had been declared a mass casualty event.
And I use Ms. Daughtry's words. It was a disaster. And Live Nation, if you want to prevent future disasters, you need to act now. Not just for those who were injured, but to make sure in the future we prevent injuries. We don't want to be reacting like we're doing here in Houston. We want to be proactive as we go forward. Last question.
I wondered if Gertrude or Raina or Black, Nicola or Sean talk about who they think ultimately bears responsibility. Is it Live Nation, Travis Scott, others, the police?
Yeah, I want to
Who do they
answer
think in their minds?
They shaking their head. That if somebody harmed you or you died, I think the question in your mind and your loved one's mind is we want everybody held accountable. Everybody. And so I want to put that question to bed once and for all. Everybody and anybody who had any responsibility for this festival should be held accountable. Thank you.